There comes a moment when the performance ends. The words no longer match the actions. The promises no longer carry meaning. The apologies no longer produce change. You finally realize that what you called love may have been access. What you called loyalty may have been control. What you called patience may have become permission for someone to repeatedly disrespect your humanity. That realization can be painful, but it is also powerful, because the day you recognize a counterfeit relationship is the day you can stop investing your real heart into something built on deception. But listen carefully. When the mask falls, wisdom must rise. Do not allow your discovery to make you reckless. Do not turn your awakening into a public war. Do not waste your strength trying to force accountability from someone who has repeatedly escaped it. Sometimes the most powerful exit is not loud. It is prepared. It is disciplined. It is supported. It is safe. You do not have to expose everything before you escape what is destroying you. You do not have to receive permission to protect your peace. And you do not have to remain inside a counterfeit relationship simply because you once believed it was real. A counterfeit relationship is dangerous because it often does not look counterfeit in the beginning. It may appear warm, attentive, passionate, and deeply connected. The person may seem to understand you better than anyone else. They may mirror your dreams, your values, your pain, and even your language. You begin to believe that you have finally found someone who sees you completely. But time reveals what excitement tried to hide. Genuine intimacy is built through honesty, patience, mutual respect, and consistent responsibility. A counterfeit relationship is built through performance, emotional control, selective affection, and an image carefully designed to earn your trust. The greatest mistake people make is judging a relationship by how powerful it feels instead of examining what it consistently produces. Intensity can create attachment, but intensity does not automatically create trust. Frequent messages do not always mean genuine care. Grand promises do not guarantee commitment. Jealousy is not always protection. Constant attention is not always love. Sometimes these behaviors are designed to create emotional dependence before you have enough time to observe the person's true character. A healthy relationship allows you to remain yourself. You can express your opinions, communicate your needs, maintain friendships, pursue your goals, and establish reasonable boundaries without being punished. You do not have to constantly monitor your words. You do not have to shrink your personality to keep the peace. You do not have to prove your loyalty every day. Healthy love creates room for two people to grow. Counterfeit love demands that one person surrender so the other can remain in control. In a counterfeit relationship, there is often an imbalance that becomes clearer over time. One person receives endless understanding while giving very little in return. Their emotions become urgent while yours become inconvenient. Their mistakes require forgiveness, but your smallest error becomes evidence against your character. Their needs are treated as essential, while yours are described as selfish, dramatic, or unreasonable. This imbalance can make you work harder and harder for smaller amounts of affection. You may begin believing that if you become more patient, more loving, more forgiving, or less demanding, the relationship will return to what it was in the beginning. But the beginning may have been a performance rather than a promise. It may have shown you the person they needed to become in order to gain your trust, not the person they were prepared to remain. This is why patterns matter more than isolated moments. Do not judge someone only by their apologies. Observe whether their behavior changes after the apology. Do not judge someone only by their promises. Examine whether their decisions support those promises. Do not judge someone by how loving they become when they fear losing you. Watch how they treat you when they feel secure that you will stay. Character is not revealed only in romance. Character is revealed when someone is disappointed, challenged, corrected, or denied access to something they want. Pay attention to how they respond when you say no. A respectful person may disagree or feel disappointed, but they will still recognize your freedom. A controlling person may become cold, insulting, distant, threatening, or suddenly helpless. They may treat your boundary as betrayal because they never viewed your independence as something you were entitled to possess. A counterfeit relationship also creates confusion. The person may hurt you, but by the end of the conversation, you are apologizing. You may raise a legitimate concern, but the discussion becomes an attack on your personality. You may ask for honesty, and they accuse you of being distrustful. You may ask for respect, and they claim you are controlling. The original issue disappears, and you are forced to defend yourself against accusations that have nothing to do with the problem you raised. Over time, this pattern weakens your confidence. You begin questioning whether your feelings are valid. You wonder whether you are too sensitive. You start doubting your memory. You may even hide the situation from others because you fear they will not understand. The relationship becomes a private world in which the other person controls the meaning of every event. But love should not require you to abandon your reality. A genuine relationship may experience conflict, but conflict moves toward clarity. Both people can take responsibility. Both people can listen. Both people can admit when they are wrong. A counterfeit relationship avoids accountability because accountability threatens the image that keeps the deception alive. You do not need to diagnose someone in order to recognize that a relationship is harming you. You do not need a perfect label before setting a boundary. You do not need public agreement before trusting repeated evidence. Focus on what the relationship consistently produces in your life. Does it produce peace, dignity, honesty, and mutual growth? Or does it produce anxiety, confusion, self-doubt, isolation, and emotional exhaustion? Your heart may be sincere, but sincerity alone cannot transform a counterfeit foundation into something genuine. You cannot love another person into accountability. You cannot sacrifice enough to make dishonesty become truth. You cannot keep abandoning yourself and call it commitment. The moment you recognize that the relationship depends on your silence, confusion, and obedience, you must stop asking how to preserve the illusion and begin asking how to protect your identity. Because real love does not require you to disappear. Real love does not fear your strength. Real love does not punish your boundaries. Real love allows you to become more of who you are, not less. The moment you recognize a repeated pattern of deception, blame-shifting, emotional manipulation, or hidden control, your first instinct may be to confront the person immediately. You may feel that truth should be spoken loudly. You may believe that if you present enough evidence, explain every contradiction, and expose every lie, the other person will finally admit what they have done. But understanding unhealthy relationship dynamics requires wisdom, because exposing a pattern does not always produce accountability. Sometimes it produces escalation. A person who is deeply committed to protecting a false image may not respond to confrontation with humility. Instead of reflecting on their behavior, they may deny everything, minimize your experience, attack your character, or suddenly present themselves as the victim. They may take your emotional reaction and use it as evidence that you are unstable. They may ignore the original issue and focus entirely on the way you confronted them. Before you realize what has happened, you are no longer discussing their dishonesty. You are defending your tone, your memory, your intentions, and your entire personality. This is why you must understand that truth alone does not guarantee transformation. Truth can reveal reality, but it cannot force maturity into a person who refuses responsibility. You cannot argue someone into developing empathy. You cannot explain someone into respecting boundaries they have repeatedly chosen to violate. You cannot make a person become honest simply because you have finally recognized their dishonesty. When people unmask unhealthy behavior, they sometimes become trapped in a mission to receive a confession. They think, I need them to admit it so I can know I was right. But your reality does not become true only when the other person agrees with it. Your pain does not become valid only when the person who caused it acknowledges it. Your boundaries do not require approval from the person who benefited from you having none. The desire to be understood is natural. However, repeatedly seeking understanding from someone who twists every conversation can become another form of captivity. Each new discussion may reopen the same wound. Each explanation may give them more information about your fears, your weaknesses, and your plans. Instead of creating closure, the confrontation may give them another opportunity to pull you back into confusion. This does not mean you must never speak. It means you must become strategic about when, where, why, and how you communicate. Ask yourself what the conversation is truly meant to accomplish. Are you communicating to set a clear boundary, address a practical responsibility, protect a child, document a concern, or seek professional support? Or are you hoping to force the person to finally become honest? The first group of goals may be realistic. The last one may keep you trapped. Wisdom requires you to stop measuring courage by how loudly you confront someone. Courage is not always standing in front of a person and revealing everything you know. Sometimes courage is accepting that the conversation you desire may never happen. Sometimes courage is leaving without receiving the apology, confession, or explanation you hoped for. Sometimes courage is choosing peace over the satisfaction of proving a point. When there are signs of retaliation, threats, stalking, financial control, unpredictable anger, public humiliation, or attempts to isolate you, careful planning becomes even more important. In such situations, dramatic confrontation may increase risk. It may alert the person that they are losing control and give them time to interfere with your plans. They may hide documents, restrict money, damage your reputation, contact your support network, or make promises designed to delay your departure. That is why quiet preparation can be a form of protection. Speak privately with trusted people. Save important information. Strengthen your financial awareness. Protect your passwords and devices. Keep records of threatening or manipulative behavior. Seek legal, therapeutic, financial, or domestic abuse support where appropriate. If children, shared property, immigration matters, or safety concerns are involved, do not rely only on emotional advice. Obtain qualified guidance. Do not announce every boundary before you are ready to enforce it. Do not threaten to leave simply to create a reaction. Do not reveal your entire plan to someone who has repeatedly used your honesty against you. Preparation is not deception when it is necessary for safety. Silence is not weakness when it protects your ability to make a clear decision. You must also prepare for the possibility that the person will attempt to rewrite the story. They may tell others that you became cold, selfish, ungrateful, or unstable. They may leave out the repeated behavior that led to your decision. They may appear calm while provoking you privately, hoping your reaction will support their version of events. Do not allow this possibility to control you. Correct serious misinformation when necessary, especially when legal, professional, or family matters are involved. But do not exhaust yourself chasing every opinion. People committed to misunderstanding you may not be persuaded by evidence. Your energy is better invested in building a stable life than in managing every false narrative. The purpose of recognizing manipulation is not to begin a war. It is to recover your judgment. Your mission is not to destroy the other person's image. Your mission is to protect your mind, your safety, your dignity, and your future. You do not need to win the final argument. You need to stop participating in a cycle where every argument costs you another piece of yourself. There comes a time when the most powerful statement is not another explanation. It is a decision. A decision made calmly, a decision supported wisely, a decision followed consistently. You may never force the mask to fall in front of everyone, but once it has fallen in front of you, you are responsible for what you do with the truth. Leaving quietly does not mean leaving weakly. It means refusing to turn your safety into a performance. It means understanding that not every truth must be announced before every move is made. When you recognize that a relationship has been built on manipulation, confusion, control, or emotional deception, your first responsibility is not to expose the other person. Your first responsibility is to protect your mind, your stability, your dignity, and your future. Many people make the mistake of revealing their plans too early. They announce that they are leaving. They explain every reason. They present every piece of evidence. They hope the other person will finally understand, accept responsibility, and offer an honest apology. But when someone has repeatedly avoided accountability, a dramatic confrontation may not bring clarity. It may create another opportunity for denial, blame, guilt, threats, false promises, or emotional pressure. This is why wisdom must guide your exit. You do not need to win one final argument. You do not need to force the other person to admit what happened. You do not need their agreement before you protect yourself. There are moments when silence is not fear. Silence is preparation. Silence is discipline. Silence is the space in which you stop reacting emotionally and begin thinking strategically. To leave quietly means you prepare before you announce. You identify trustworthy people who can support you. You secure important documents. You protect your finances where legally possible. You change passwords and review access to your phone, email, social media, and private accounts. You consider where you will stay and how you will manage practical responsibilities. When children, property, legal agreements, immigration concerns, stalking threats, or financial dependence are involved, you seek professional advice instead of relying only on emotion. Preparation is not betrayal. Preparation is self-respect. You must also understand that the period surrounding separation can sometimes increase tension. A controlling person may feel that they are losing access, influence, or authority over you. They may suddenly become unusually affectionate. They may promise transformation. They may cry, apologize, blame their childhood, involve friends and relatives, or accuse you of being cruel. In other cases, they may become angry, threatening, or determined to damage your reputation. This is why your plan must be stronger than your temporary emotions. Do not confuse a powerful apology with permanent change. Do not confuse panic at losing control with genuine love. Real change is not proved through one emotional conversation. It is demonstrated through consistent responsibility over time. It respects boundaries. It accepts consequences. It does not demand immediate forgiveness or access. Quiet departure also means resisting the urge to tell everyone everything. You may feel desperate to defend yourself before the other person controls the story, but reacting to every accusation can keep you trapped in the same system of chaos. Share the truth with people who genuinely need to know. Document serious threats, harassment, financial misconduct, or abusive behavior. Correct damaging misinformation when necessary. But do not spend your life trying to persuade every observer. Some people are committed to misunderstanding you. Let them. Your peace cannot depend on universal approval. If communication is still required, keep it brief, calm, factual, and focused on necessary matters. Do not allow practical conversations to become emotional debates about the entire relationship. You do not need to answer every provocation. You do not need to defend every decision. You do not need to respond immediately simply because a message was sent. Pause before responding. Remove insults and emotional explanations. State the facts, protect your records, maintain your boundaries. Leaving quietly is not about revenge. It is not a trick designed to make someone chase you. It is not an attempt to punish them with silence. It is a decision to stop feeding a destructive cycle. You are not leaving to prove that you are powerful. You are leaving because you finally understand that your life has value. Your purpose deserves protection. Your mind deserves rest. Your future deserves a foundation that is not built on fear, confusion, or constant self-doubt. There may be moments when you feel guilty. You may wonder whether preparing privately makes you dishonest. But there is a difference between deception for personal gain and privacy for personal safety. You are allowed to think before you speak. You are allowed to prepare before you move. You are allowed to seek help before the other person knows what you are considering. Wisdom does not reveal every step to someone who may use that information to block, intimidate, manipulate, or punish you. Move carefully. Move responsibly. Move with support. And when the moment comes, do not look back, because someone suddenly offers the respect they refused to give while they believed you would never leave. A quiet exit can become the loudest declaration of self-respect you have ever made. It says, I will no longer argue for my right to be treated with dignity. I will no longer submit my reality for someone else's approval. I will no longer sacrifice my peace to preserve a counterfeit relationship. You do not have to create a scene to change your life. Sometimes freedom begins with a private decision, a careful plan, and one courageous step taken without announcement. Recovery begins when you stop trying to prove your reality to someone who benefits from making you doubt it. In an emotionally confusing relationship, you may spend months or even years explaining what happened, defending what you felt, and searching for the perfect words that will finally make the other person understand. You believe that if you present enough evidence, remain calm enough, or explain your pain clearly enough, the truth will become undeniable. But when someone repeatedly avoids responsibility, the problem is often not a lack of understanding. The problem is that accepting your reality would require them to confront their own behavior. As long as you are trapped in the role of proving yourself, Your attention remains centered on them. Your healing begins when your attention returns to you. You must understand what prolonged emotional manipulation can do to your identity. It can train you to question your instincts. You may begin doubting conversations you clearly remember. You may apologize for reactions that came after repeated disrespect. You may wonder whether your expectations are unreasonable simply because the other person refuses to meet them. Over time, you can become disconnected from your own judgment. Instead of asking, "Is this relationship healthy for me?" you begin asking, "How can I become easier for this person to love?" That question can slowly destroy your self-respect because it assumes the solution is always more sacrifice from you. Rebuilding your identity requires you to stop measuring your worth through someone else's approval. You were a complete human being before this relationship entered your life. You had thoughts, values, interests, dreams, friendships, and personal boundaries. Some of those things may have become smaller because you were constantly managing another person's moods. Perhaps you stopped sharing your achievements because they responded with jealousy. Perhaps you distanced yourself from supportive people because every friendship caused conflict. Perhaps you abandoned goals because your growth made the other person uncomfortable. Recovery asks you to return to the places where you disappeared. Begin by reconnecting with your own voice. Write down what you believe. Identify what respect means to you. Decide what behavior you will no longer excuse. Ask yourself what you need in order to feel emotionally safe. These are not selfish questions. They are necessary questions. A person who has spent a long time adapting to manipulation may not immediately know what they want. That is normal. You do not have to rebuild your entire life in one dramatic moment. Identity returns through small decisions made consistently. Choosing what you wear without fear of criticism. Calling someone you trust. Returning to an old interest. Resting without feeling guilty. Saying no without writing a long explanation. Every small act of self-direction reminds your mind that your life belongs to you. Trusted relationships are also essential during recovery. Manipulative dynamics often create isolation, because isolation makes confusion easier to maintain. When you reconnect with emotionally healthy people, you receive a more balanced reflection of yourself. You are reminded that disagreement does not have to become punishment. You discover that boundaries do not automatically end relationships. You experience conversations in which your feelings are not mocked or turned against you. Healthy connection can help repair the damage caused by unhealthy connection, but choose your support carefully. Speak with people who respect your privacy, avoid unnecessary drama, and encourage wise decisions rather than revenge. You must also resist the temptation to make the other person's motives the center of your healing. It is understandable to ask why they acted this way. You may study every pattern, replay every conversation, and search for a psychological explanation that makes the experience feel complete. Education can be helpful, but obsession can become another form of attachment. At some point, the question must change from "why did they do this to me?" to "what do I need to become healthy again?" You may never fully understand their motives. You do not need perfect understanding in order to establish a boundary. The effect of the behavior is enough information to make a wise decision. Healing also requires patience with yourself. You may feel strong one day and uncertain the next. You may miss the person even while knowing the relationship was unhealthy. You may grieve the future you imagined rather than the reality you experienced. Do not interpret grief as proof that you should return. Grief often means that you cared deeply. It means you invested hope, time, and emotion. Allow yourself to feel the loss without allowing the loss to erase the lessons. Your identity is restored every time you choose truth over confusion, dignity over approval, and peace over emotional chaos. You do not need their confession in order to trust what you experienced. You do not need their agreement in order to protect yourself. You do not need to win the final argument in order to move forward. Your freedom begins when you accept that closure may not come from their apology. It may come from your decision to stop abandoning yourself. The goal of recovery is not to become cold, suspicious, or afraid of love. The goal is to become wiser. You can remain compassionate without becoming unprotected. You can forgive without reopening access. You can wish someone well without sacrificing your future for them. The strongest version of you is not the person who proves everything to everyone. It is the person who knows what happened, learns from it, rebuilds with patience, and moves forward without needing permission.